Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be doing all of my pickups for the first half of May 2019. There's some things I'm really excited about in this pickups video. Some anime as well that I've been waiting for a very, very, very long time. So rather than spend too long on this intro, I'll just get straight into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. So starting with anime, I have a couple things here I actually ordered from Right Stuff back in their Christmas sales, but there was one item that was not available until just recently, so it did take a while for these to get shipped out to me. But the first item on that order was Daily Lives of High School Boys. This is the standard edition. This is a show, it's a comedy about pretty much what it says, Daily Lives of High School Boys. And I think, honestly, it's one of the better representations of just, like, the dumb stuff that teens get up to. I really like how the female characters are portrayed in this because they act just as dumb and just as, I guess, normal in a sense as the boys do. They're not really put up on this pedestal. They don't inherently, like, have a better attitude or are personality-wise bland or anything like that, so I really appreciate that with this series. It's very, very funny, very ridiculous, a little bit out there, but I did own the limited edition of this series for quite a few years. I recently sold it as well as some of my other NIS limited editions, and in the hope that I could downgrade, quote unquote, to the standard editions, because I just don't really have the space for a lot of limited editions anymore. I have kept my Natsume one and my Natsume ones, I should say, there's multiple, and my one for My Little Monster, as well as The Eccentric Family, which is one of my absolute favorite shows. But all of the rest I have either already sold or I'm hoping to sell in order to downgrade to more compact and probably easier to store releases. Great show if you haven't tried this one before. I believe it's still on Crunchyroll. Don't quote me on that. I think it is. But very funny. 12 episodes in all. Some episodes are funnier than others, but I find it a pretty steady level of humor throughout the entire series. And definitely one to check out if you do like these sorts of bizarre high school comedies. It's not quite as off the wall as like Nichijou, but it is funnier, in my opinion, than something like Azumanga Daioh. So it's sort of closer to Nichijou up that end, or like even Cromartie High School, compared to something a little bit more slice of life-y type of thing. Next, we have the first film of Haikara-san, Here Comes Miss Modern, so part 1. There is going to be a second film as well, and this is a anime adaptation of the manga of the same name from the 80s. This follows our main character, Benio, as she is growing up during the Taisho period. She really is very rambunctious. She's very much a modern woman. She does not want to be the sort of wilting violet housewife that women were expected to be in Japan prior to this. And the Taisho period really was like a very transitional time for Japan, where Western influences were finally being seen in widespread throughout society, and women's roles were changing a lot. So it's not sort of just a pipe dream for Benio. She could go out into a workforce and sort of achieve things that she wouldn't necessarily have been able to do if she had been born a couple decades earlier. But she currently is in like a high school, girls' school, to teach her all these sorts of home ec courses, etiquette, things like that, in order to be a proper wife. But really her dream is to, you know, live a good life, have a good job, to travel, to have fun, and not necessarily be stuck as somebody's little wife her entire life. Unfortunately, her father does not feel the same way, and he does organize a engagement for her. She is very upset by this, but she does actually meet her to-be fiancé outside of the engagement meetings and organization. And they get on very well, surprisingly. She feels like she has to do everything she can to put him off, but he is not a traditionalist like her father. He very much appreciates that she has a mind and is willing to, speak up about what she wants, and that she's a go-getter, and that she knows, she's not afraid to get into a bit of rough and tumble. He really appreciates that, and because of that, they do get on very, very well, and they have very similar ideals. Their relationship is definitely a large part of this series, not just the development or the acceptance of their own feelings, but also the feelings of their own respective families, because despite his own personality, his family is very traditional, and so they do have very major disapprovals of her at first, and for pretty much the entirety of the film as well. And we do also have this looming drama and conflict of the sort of war that Japan was in with Russia at that time, and because her fiance is in the military, sort of the threat of being sent into combat. It's very, I really liked this film. I was looking forward to it for a very long time. Did not disappoint me. It is very much what I expected. And if you do like these sort of Taisho period stories, the other anime that immediately comes to mind is Taisho Baseball Girls, which is like a different genre, but about sort of the same things of this women's rights movement and this change in society. Definitely check it out. It's not a perfect film. It's also not super duper, it's compared to some other anime films, it doesn't, I would guess, have the largest budget either, so it's not gorgeous and just a must-see visually, but it is a strong, interesting story. I'm happy that we are getting some more older shoujo manga adaptations, and I look forward to watching part 2. So next finally for anime, I have the thing that actually held up this order. I'm sure plenty of people have similar things that happened to them, because Discotek did not have their items in stock for a very long time when they changed distributors or warehouses, I believe. So I was waiting for 5 months for this order because of Devilman, the complete 1987 to 1990 OVA series. This is a 2-episode OVA of, the Go Nagai Devilman manga, of which various other, anime adaptations have been done, including Devilman Crybaby. But this is a single disc Blu-ray release, looks wonderful, and this has a amazing dub from Manga Video, I believe. It is so funny, so wonderful, such an enjoyment. And honestly, if you enjoyed Devilman, if you enjoyed the newer series, if you enjoy the manga, and you haven't seen the OVAs are actually really decent. They are older, from the 80s and early 90s, so of course their age is reflected in that, but the dub is priceless. It is honestly, it brings me so much joy. It's such a event to watch. Really, really, really good stuff. Really happy to finally have this. And when this was announced for Blu-ray, I did want to get it pretty quickly, but I did wait for the Christmas sales, and of course, just my luck, that was when they started not being able to ship things out because of their distributor change or their warehouse change. So I was waiting for a very long time to finally get this. But this is a dub, and this is, I guess, an OVA that lives in infamy. It is well worth the watch, though, especially if you like old cheesy dubs and old cheesy OVAs as well. It's not anything brilliant, but it is a pretty decent adaptation of the Devilman manga. It looks good. It sounds amazing. And if any of you are hoping to watch the next podcast episode of OMG, we will probably be talking about this. So, because I know M has been wanting to watch this dub on Blu-ray, ever since I told her that I bought it. And as I said, it's been quite a few months since then, so I know she's just chomping at the bit to get to it. But yeah, really, really wonderful. Great to finally have it. Thanks, Discotheque. And yeah, I know a lot of people really respect Discotheque, myself included, because of just the care that they do put into their series, both the very classic stuff like this, as well as some of their newer things as well. So yeah, check it out. It's cheap and definitely worth the money, especially if you like weird, funky OVAs. Onwards to manga, I have the first volume of a series I am so excited to finally own, and so happy that it's finally been released, and that is Our Dreams at Dusk, Shimanami Tasagare Volume 1 by Yuki Kamitani. This is a Seven Seas title, and one of the most highly anticipated releases for me this year, if not the number one most highly anticipated release. I adore Kamitani's work. I really respect them, and I respect the types of stories that they continue to write and illustrate, obviously. It is superb what they can put into a manga and how evocative so many parts of it can be. The artwork that they do is beautiful, and if you are unfamiliar with this story somehow, but you obviously haven't been following my channel for a long time, because I talk about this series endlessly on here, on my social media, especially over the past year since it's been announced, and especially over the past month since it's gotten closer to the release date and more people have gotten their own copy. But this is a LGBT story about our main character. He's a high school boy, and at the beginning of the series we find him considering committing suicide after he fears he's been outed at school as being gay. Fortunately, that doesn't happen, and he's stopped by someone who he sort of misunderstands to also be committing suicide, but follows them and finds himself in a lounge, sort of a community space with a bunch of other different individuals whom he sort of becomes friends with and sort of falls into their group, who coincidentally are all also part of like the LGBT community. And what this group does, they sort of get together and they go and find old rundown houses that aren't, inhabited anymore, and they reclaim them and renovate them and make them into community spaces. And it's a very obvious metaphor for the entire series. Everyone in this group is also a work in progress, and in the act of renovation, it allows them to sort of break themselves down and reflect themselves and repair themselves and look after themselves and find a community with each other, because a lot of other people within wider society, whether they be family or friends or whomever else, just don't understand their lives and don't understand them. So it's so wonderful. I've mentioned this before, maybe, but Yuki Kamitani is LGBT themselves. They actually regard themselves as ex-gender, or probably easier for a Western perspective is non-binary. So they do use the they, them pronouns. Please respect that if you are hoping to read this and talk about this series or any of their other works, including Nabari no O. But it is very obvious to see how Kamitani has put themselves into this work. And when this was licensed, it was still sort of at the beginning of when a lot of LGBT manga was just sort of starting to become licensed. And it really showed me, it was a real indication that this is a viable market that publishers are thinking about. Because not only is it not a one-shot, and it is very explicitly LGBT, not in like explicit content, but like it's not hiding anything, it's not beating around the bush, and neither is it sort of a Yuri or a Yaoi BL titled or boxed series. It's not about that. And so this was licensed a similar time to things like Claudine, My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, My Brother's Husband, and the fact that this series, it it had a very popular and large online following thanks to scans and, of course, other various methods. But the fact that this series, which is so, I would say, very important in regards to LGBT manga, especially modern LGBT manga, did get a license, was just amazing. And this story, I've said this before in regards to myself, but I'm not within the LGBT community. I appreciate stories for what they are, characters for who they are, and I don't discriminate regardless. So this story, like, it's not my personal experiences in life, but it's still an incredibly powerful story about finding yourself and accepting yourself and trying to work with yourself and with the people around you to become the person you want to be, or to create the future that you want for yourself. This series is finished. It's only 4 volumes long. I believe the last volume does come out in December, so we are getting them very rapidly, and I'm just so happy. Honestly, there's nothing more I can say than that. But when the series got licensed, I honestly, because I had read a couple of chapters, I'd probably read about half of it at that point, because again, this was a series I never expected to be licensed, and thankfully publishers have continued to surprise me over the last 18 months. But when it was licensed, I was gobsmacked, honestly. You can kind of hear it in my voice now, but I was honestly very affected, and I was so happy that we are seeing more stories like this, very genuine, true experiences from people who we, up until now, within certain genres or within certain mediums, have been ignored or haven't had the platform. And Kamatani's work has always had somewhat of an underdog feel to it. I don't know how many people who have read Nabari no O, regardless of my recent campaigning for it, because I do really enjoy that series and do think more people should try it. But I would love to see more of their work available in English, and I do hope that this does well for Seven Seas, so we can get more series within this genre, as well as more of Kamatani's work, because they do deserve the popularity and they do deserve the recognition. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore, but I honestly think this is the book for me. And when it gets to, the end of the year and I do like a top 10 debuts, whatever, this will be number 1, no doubt. So yeah, spoilers for December. Next, we have volume 2 of That Blue Sky Feeling. This is the second of 3 volumes done by Okura and Komahashi. So next volume is the last one. I discovered I'm going to be really sad when this one is over. And this is also an LGBT manga about high schoolers, one where our main character has recently transferred. He befriends the loner boy in his class who doesn't really have any friends, due to, he discovers, this rumors that he's gay, and so nobody else really wants to get close to him. They find him weird and don't want to, catch the gay. And he believes that they're just rumors, and this other kid doesn't really want to put the effort in to change their perception, but he does eventually find out that his new friend is gay, and his reaction to that is initially very sort of surprised and kind of put off as well, kind of like, oh, do I want to be friends with him? But he takes the time to reassess their relationship, his own feelings, and his own relationship with his sexuality and who he is, and realizes that it doesn't really matter to him. So this is not only a story about, friendship and acceptance, but also discovering yourself and that inward reflection and growing, and the difficult times of puberty. The drama in this particular book was done fairly well. I would say this, for all of the LGBT manga that I've read recently, including things like Blue Flag and Our Dreams at Dusk, I would say this is definitely on the more light side. It reminds me more so of like a short shoujo series where there's drama, there are definitely things and problems that our characters have to overcome, but it's a lot more lighthearted, and there's a lot more just of a not hopeful, but like soothing, simple feeling to it compared to some of those other titles where they absolutely rip your heart out. That's not to say that there wasn't moments in this where it's like, oh no, oh children. But comparatively, it's not nearly as strong. But as I said, it is very, very, very good. At only 3 volumes, it's not a huge commitment. If you do like these sorts of stories, this is definitely one to check out. It's wonderful that this is just a normal Viz book. It's not under like their BL imprint or anything like that. And I'm really happy that more of these sorts of LGBT stories that talk about the normalization of sexuality and not fitting into the heteronormative, ideal are being licensed and released and available for people. And it's very, 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 very nice to see this trend doing so well. And again, I hope this does well for Viz, because I want them to license more things like this. Most notably, please give me Blue Flag. I would buy 10 copies just to say thank you. Please. Anyway, Blue Sky feeling, wonderful. Volume 2. Next volume's the last one. Can't wait to pick it up. And I'm going to be sad when this one's over, probably, like I normally am. Continuing with the heavy drama of teens and puberty and sexuality and all of these other things, I also picked up the first volume of O Maidens in Your Savage Season, written by Mari Okara, which you may recognize from things like Anohana. She directed Makuya. She's done a lot of very popular and prolific work. My personal favorite of hers is Anthem of the Heart, which is a film, very, very good, and art by Nao Emoto, who you may know from Forget Me Not. They did the art for that series. And this is a story about a literature club in high school, 5 girls, and sort of their getting preoccupied by sex due to the fact that literature does kind of talk about sex a lot, and being, 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, it's not unusual for them to start thinking about sex, and none of them are particularly popular or anything like that, so they don't really have any experience with it, but they're all at sort of different points in their lives where they want to experience it, or don't want to experience it, as that may be the case. It's interesting. I was not sure what to expect of this series, because sometimes Okura's work can be very hit or miss for me, but I really, really, really liked this first volume. I can really appreciate whenever a series can talk about female sexuality in a constructive way or without completely dismissing it, especially when you are like in this period of high school and puberty where you're like, oh, I like boys, but I don't want to be seen as slutty, or I don't know, like I don't have a boyfriend, and that idea of like girls shouldn't be thinking about sex, those sorts of things. So it's really, really nice that we have a series that does handle this, and we have various girls at different points of their exploration of sexuality. One who is very much aware of sex and those sorts of things, one who would prefer to be involved with it, one who just hasn't even thought about it. She's sort of still stuck in this innocent mindset, or just not even thinking about it because like, oh, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have to worry about it. It's really nice to see all of these different characters playing off of each other in regards to this topic. And I am interested to see where the story goes from here, because it's sort of a cliffhanger on how it ends. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely give it a look. This is a seinen series, definitely one that maybe people wouldn't, I don't know, maybe people aren't looking out for this one, but it is a really decent first volume, and I look forward to reading more. More Kodansha with Land of the Lustrous Volume 8 by Haruko Ichikawa. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. If you thought the last volume was crazy, this is when things really take a turn. And there is so much going on. So much that you will not expect. And even sort of these stories, or these pictures, I guess, would be probably spoilery. I make no secret that I adore this series, but if we're not necessarily sure of the direction of what this series is or what it's doing, the potential that it has, with Volume 8, it almost completely flips everything and your expectations to the story, to what's been set up so far, and it's done so incredibly well. And as always, I'm left finished with the volume, waiting for the next one, and it's such a painful wait. And these volumes come out fairly quickly, so the fact that I can't wait the 2 months, I'm like, no, please give me the next one. I need to know. It is phenomenal. Lots of body horror as per usual, but as I said, it completely changes your perspective of certain events in this volume. I really can't even begin to guess as to where the story is going from here, but I cannot wait to read more of it. And I'm just so glad that this series is coming out in English, because I feel like a short time ago it would not have been that way. And I'm so glad that the anime did so well. So there was a bigger push, hopefully, to pick up the manga. So I hope this series is doing well for Kodansha, because it deserves it. And it's definitely one that, once it's done, I feel like I'm going to reread a lot, because you do gain things every single time you read it. It's one that continues to sort of percolate in your brain, and you think about and you remember things, or you realize things that you didn't expect to, or you didn't really understand before. So Land of the Lustrous, as I've said numerous times in regards to this series, it is honestly one of the best seinens coming out right now. If you're not reading it, you are definitely missing out. But I know it's not necessarily for everyone, but it is absolutely one of my favorites. And I am so happy. We seem to be having such a good showing for this series that there is so much support for it. So, yeah. Finally, for Kodansha manga, we have Volume 9 of To Your Eternity by Yoshitoki Oima. This, as I always say, is the ongoing sort of fantasy drama of Imo, or Fushi, whatever he is in the print, because I keep up to date with this via Crunchyroll. And his sort of self-discovery and what it means to be human, and what it means to protect people, and what it means to have responsibility and to feel like you need to be the hero that people expect you to be. There are so many things going on in this manga. I really think there's a lot to be said for Oima's character writing and situational writing as well. The fact that she's come up with two so very different stories with this and A Silent Voice, but both of them are very hard-hitting, emotional, wonderful series that I honestly can't compare to other things, and it just continues to be wonderful. As I've said before, and as I said already, this is a series I keep up to date with via Crunchyroll, so I have actually read all of this, but it is always one of the first things I do pre-order, because I like to get it as it comes out. I like to support this series, and obviously this is already longer than Oima's previous work, so the scope of it is much larger, and there's so much more going on. So if you liked A Silent Voice, even though this is a totally different genre, I think you should check out this one, because it's really good. It's wonderful, and as always, makes me cry. And so yes. Finally, for manga, or should I say manhwa, I have it says boys love or BL, but it's more so like a shonen. I don't know. This is Net Comics' second volume of Prince Bari by Solanine and Maki. And this is the story of a conman who pretends to be a psychic, but he can see one ghost, which is how he's been able to con people to believing he's a psychic until now. And he now lives with one of his clients who is also being haunted by a ghost who he can see. And so, I don't know, it's a bit of a interesting little thing there. And then the two ghosts, they have a prior history together, so there's some stuff going on there. And they're just these two young men, their relationship and having to live together and, you know, accommodate each other, as it were, and learn about each other. I have not read this volume yet, but because I literally got it today, so I hope to soon. But it's an interesting one. I like, it's fairly tame. There's nothing like super explicit about it or anything like that. It's not even explicitly like a romance series. At least the first volume isn't, should I say. But I will say that it does, the supernatural element of it, the ghosts, these kind of things, definitely appeals to me. So if that's something that appeals to you, then maybe check it out. But as I said, it is very like subdued and just very baby steps, slow burn. And if you like that in your romance, I assume romance, then check it out. But otherwise, yeah, this is probably not one that a lot of people are following. So that is everything that I got for the first half of May. A lot less than I normally get, as I'm sure plenty of you have noticed. But all things that I've been really excited about, actually. Kodansha has been very good to me so far this month. Really happy to finally get these Blu-rays. And of course, I can't not mention Our Dreams at Dusk, as I said even earlier in the video. My number one debut for the year, and I couldn't be happier. Honestly, this is like one of the best probably pickups videos that I've had in a long time. Shimonari Tasagare, Blue Sky Feeling, Maidens being such a strong debut. Really happy about that. I've been waiting for the second volume of Prince Bari for a long time too. And of course, Land of the Lustrous and To Your Eternity are always wonderful. But yes, really, really, really happy. Let me know your guys' thoughts on any of these titles, if you're reading them, if you're not reading them, if you agree with me, if you totally disagree. Let me know what you've been reading and whether I've missed something that I should probably be checking out, because I'd probably like it. I love reading your comments. As always, I do try to reply to each and every one of them, and yeah, it's really, really appreciate it. It really helps me out as well to let me know what you enjoy about these videos. My social media link to Twitter is in the description below, as always, as is my book depository affiliate link, which again is always there. No obligation to use it, but is there if you do like free worldwide shipping, like I do, because I buy a lot of books, and it's definitely the best place, in my opinion, in my experience, to buy said books. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Bye till then.